Teachers, we'll be using some printmaking supplies here to create several text in art types of projects. First center is our jelly plate. It's that rubbery clear plate that's on the one side of my classroom. You'll need a jelly plate, you'll need a brayer loaded with ink, and you'll need some text letters to create your prints with. I roll up, down, back, forth to get my brayer charged with ink. And you can even use some texturing things like bubble wrap or a Q-tip or even some tissue to create, again, texture into your jelly plate. And now I'm going to use some die cut letters placed again in reverse. We need to think backwards by design, thinking critically if we're doing this with our students. So I can then take a white sheet of paper, press over my jelly plate, and when I peel up, I should have a negative image of everywhere where that paper blocked. I can then repeat this process with new ink. So if you need to, if you want to try this a second time, if your first one wasn't successful, simply recharge. That means to add more ink onto your brayer. And you can reapply the same letters again. So in my second piece here, I'm going to try a composition that's horizontal instead of vertical. Not only do you have to encourage your students, if you do this, to think about putting the letters backwards, but also spelling the word backwards. So everything in a print always shows up in reverse. Again, I repeat the same process, lift my paper away, and I'm left with now a horizontal composition along the line. The neat thing sometimes about jelly prints is that you do get a little bit of residual sort of ink underneath. So rather than just wash this away, I take a scrap here and I just see what I get. Same thing, pick graffiti style this time. The second station that you can do is more of a letterpress. So imagining typography back in colonial days, where to create a newspaper, you would have individual carved letters, and the printer would put in each font backwards to create a sheet of text. Here on a sheet of foam, you are making a stamp with a pencil. I encourage students to draw light so they have it right, print their letter backwards first, and then I ask them to draw a force field or another outline around the outside of that letter. Again, thinking about if it is supposed to be forwards, you need to draw it backwards so that it shows up in print. Now, instead of ink for this one, I'm going to be using a water-soluble marker, Crayola marker, or any marker will do the same, as long as it's not a Sharpie. Once I have the marker over top of the foam, I use my marker, like my roller, like my brayer, to press in and create a stamp. So again, that backwards by design, whatever you print or write forwards needs to be backwards. So I'm not only spelling my word backwards, I also wrote the letters backwards, and that marker creates the rubbing up onto the paper. So this is something that might be very, very simple for your students. Foam can be found here in the art room, or you can even cut apart a styrofoam paper plate or something from the dollar store. It does the same effect, and it creates that texture. And the last thing that I have here is something called a monoprint. On the third center, a monoprint means one. Here I'm going to show you how to do an illuminated letter. This could be used for a poetry unit or a unit on fiction, where in medieval times, since books were rare and not a lot of people could read or were illiterate, oftentimes illuminated, that means fancier to glow, would be this highly decorated letter at the beginning of text. So sometimes in art, to tie in language arts, we create an illuminated letter project. Here I'm using a Q-tip, or in this case, a pencil eraser over a top of plexiglass, or it could even be a sheet of transparency with some tempera paint to draw an illuminated letter. And then because this is paint, not ink, I'm not rubbing so much as I am just doing a gentle press over top of my paper. And when I peel up away, I have my illuminated letter. This could be used to design a class journal or a sketchbook. So these are three types of ways you can use typography teachers in your classroom, tying in art and language arts. Today, I want you to try one, two, or all three of these today. Just play around with the material that we have here in art as long as you're using text and art together.